Hi, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Go check out my website at skyazrael.com if you want life coaching and mentoring. Let's talk a little bit about social anxiety. Something that I've had, for sure. I think everybody has it to a certain degree, but not everybody lets it hold them back. Some people do. It's unfortunate when you let your social anxiety hold you back, and I know what that's like. I know what it's like to sit around the house alone, wishing that I would have gone out, but feeling too unconfident to do it. I know what it's like to be at a party, to drive all the way across town to get there, find a parking space, sit there for 10 minutes and feel incredibly uncomfortable, like I want to chew my arm off and just leave. I could go on and on with my social anxiety scenarios. I'm sure you have yours. There's kind of a progression of how you can find yourself into depression. The progression of depression. So it starts off with a negative thought about ourselves. We come up with this on our own as a response to a scenario, whether the scenario is real or not. What I mean is that sometimes we engage in negative thought processes, we engage in negativity about ourselves, even if it really isn't warranted. So for example, you might be in a conversation with somebody and then all of a sudden in the middle of that conversation you might think, well geez, is this person not accepting me? Are they against me? Am I coming across weird? Am I not being cool? You may think certain things like that about yourself just all of a sudden out of nowhere because of someone's response, because of a look they gave you or a response they gave you. It just somehow sets you off, and then that leads to the symptom of social anxiety. Now you're feeling those bodily symptoms. You may not even notice it in thoughts. You may just feel flustered, unconfident, physically weak, like your arms and limbs are heavier. I try to notice my bodily symptoms just because that's the first warning signs to a mental symptom. Anger may come up first as a bodily symptom. Fear may come up first as a bodily symptom. You get it? And then that social anxiety that you are in is now being displayed. It's resulting in your self-confidence issues. And those have been waiting for you. Those are weaknesses that you have that just stay within you, that self-confidence issue, and it may be in the freezer, but what lets it out is anything that triggers your social anxiety. And now you've found yourself horribly unconfident. You've gone down this road of weakness, and it's triggered your depression. All from a conversation. You started off in a normal conversation with somebody on the phone. Maybe it was in person. They said something or had a response or a reaction that you somehow didn't take well or perceive right. And now one thing after another, your depression is right back. Maybe you thought it was gone. It's back. It's still there. And that's when people usually start to engage in self-destructive behavior. Let me go get a drink. Let me go get drunk. Let me forget about this shit. Let me go engage in some sort of vice and chase the escape, right? Lots of different vices. Maybe it's food for you. And as soon as you start to feel a little bit depressed, you start to go eat. So you have to attack the depression. But that doesn't mean that you're attacking your sorrow in the moment, trying to flip that to happiness. Because that could be like flipping a runny egg, man. That's hard to do. What you need to do, but the way that you attack the depression and become impervious to your social anxiety is to directly go after what triggered you. So if it was a conversation, let's go back to the beginning. And in that conversation, you got triggered somehow. Something that dude said, something that woman said, something that a body language she had, or some sort of reaction, expression on his face that he had when you talked to him, or the silence in between words, something triggered your social anxiety. And we have to go after what that was and why that was. So try to pinpoint the moment. You may have to review the conversation and, oh yeah, okay. For some reason, halfway through the conversation, when we were talking about X, Y, and Z, I started to feel a little less confident. I started to wonder if I was coming across right. That I got triggered because this used to happen to me when I was a kid. I'm just making up a scenario, but this could be it. So you have to go after that specifically. We want to pinpoint specifically what the emotion is and where did it happen in the conversation, if we can, as best as we can. To identify the problem, the diagnosis of the problem, is the most important aspect of solving it, because many times the solution is simple. The solution may be simple. It may take you 5 minutes. You ever had a 5-minute fix? I work on vehicles, and sometimes a problem that's driving you crazy is really no big deal. Bam, I fixed it. It may have taken a week for you to figure it out, and it took us an hour to take a bunch of different parts off, but the fix isn't a really big deal. We have to diagnose the problem. And for some reason in our minds, when we recognize to turn the light on in a dark room, when we recognize the problem, you may see shadows in the room that scare you. In your closet, and every time you go into your walk-in closet, you see that one shadow and you wonder if someone's lurking in there. Every time you turn the light on, you realize it's just that rack of shirts that you have hanging up. We have to turn the light on inside our head and expose those problems. Expose that weakness. You may need to just simply understand, as a rational adult, looking back with hindsight, an experience that you had as a kid that led you down this road of wondering why you're never accepted, or maybe you feel like you're never understood. Where does that come from? Let's go back. This is why psychiatrists always ask you about your childhood. It seems so cliche and annoying. It's important. You can do this with yourself. You don't need to pay people, really. When and you'll recognize the dirt in the room. You don't have to search around for dirt in a room. You can find it. And you'll recognize that weakness in your mind. You'll recognize the problem and expose it. You may need to add some love into a weak inner child. Go find that inner child and give it a hug. You may need to just simply map out an event, a trauma that happened to you, and from beginning to end, okay, I walked in the room, my mother smacked me, whatever it was, step by step, just exposing it, understanding it, helps us to smooth out those wrinkles of the past. Your social anxiety can be conquered. I want you to leave the video with hope. You don't have to tend to this wound forever. You can heal it, but it's going to take some effort. It's all food for thought.